Welcome back to the 4-Point Play. Today we're going to be breaking down some of what's been going on in the NBA recently.
So we're going to start off with the series that have just taken place. We had 2 Game 7s recently. So the first one that we're going to talk about here is the Wolves-Nuggets, being that it is the big talking point here. And obviously what happened is Denver blew a 20-point lead on their home floor and proceeded to lose to Minnesota. So I don't know who wants to go first, who wants to give their thoughts on this.
I could start. The series was, to say the least, watching it wasn't awesome. All the games were not close. I didn't really enjoy this series a lot. I was really looking forward to it going in, and the drama around it was really entertaining because of how seismic the shifts in momentum were. But when it came down to Game 7, with the largest comeback in playoff history for Game 7s, that was a wild game. The first game that actually felt competitive, and for the first half it didn't feel competitive, which was crazy. Jokic and Murray both combined for about 70 points. I didn't feel like either of them played awesome though. And Anthony Edwards, while he didn't have a great stat line, I feel like he did put his imprint on the game in different ways. His defense, he was guarding Jamal Murray and really locked him down in the second half. And he was just like, the energy was awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a huge win for Minnesota, especially for guys like Gobert, Towns, who they've been playing for a while and they haven't really ever won anything or even gone super far in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's huge for Anthony Edwards. He's only 22 years old and already going to the conference finals. Has a chance at making the finals, possibly winning a championship. So I think it was a great win. They beat the defending champs too with the MVP for the season, Jokic. So it's hard to repeat too for Denver.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to go back to back, especially without a dynasty kind of team.
Yeah, we haven't had a back to back since the Warriors.
But I think it's a huge win for Minnesota, and they've never won a championship either, so it could.
They've also never been to a finals, so this could be their chance. Any thoughts from you guys?
Yeah, I was just going to say, too, I think that a lot of this collapse comes down to a lot of the role players. Michael Porter Jr. was just dreadful for the last 4 games of this series. I think games, 5, 6, or 4, 5, and 6, I think alone he put up combined between those 3 games 16 points. And when you're getting paid $40 million a year, that's just not going to cut it. And a big thing, too, Jokic obviously gave you his 35 or 34, whatever it was. He gave you almost 20 rebounds. And then he gave you, 5 assists, 6 assists? I don't know what it was.
I think it ended up being 6.
Yeah, so, it's just it's just the fact that these guys weren't making shots. Aaron Gordon, Caldwell Pope, and Porter Jr., I think, combined for, 13 points.
21.
They combined for 21?
Everyone except Jamal and Jokic combined for 21. The entire rest of the team.
Okay, the entire rest of the team, yeah. But just the rest of the starter, I think if you just had the starters alone, maybe it was 13 points, 15 points maybe.
Probably. Who else on the bench? Christian Brown, I don't remember him doing really anything.
Yeah.
It was literally the Jokic-Murray show, and Jokic, to me, looked really exhausted by the end of it. You could tell he was... Why is Jokic shooting 10 threes in a game? He in the first half he was 1 for 7 from 3. Mm-hmm. Why the fact that he was settling for threes meant he was either scared to drive or he just was tired.
Yeah, he had to go the whole game. I don't even know if he sat. Maybe he played the whole game.
I think he played about 47 minutes.
So he may have sat for
pretty much the entire game.
30 seconds or something like that. But they just got big bodies in the Wolves. Gobert 7'2", Towns almost a 7-footer.
Yeah.
Naz Reid, almost a 7-footer. Jaden McDaniels, 6'10". These guys are just huge. And at the end of the day, Denver thought they could do it without anybody on the bench. Peyton Watson, they thought could play a big role, but he got spaced off the floor. He didn't even get a single minute, I think, in the last 4 games of the series.
Benched,
I don't think he played, yeah. So Christian Brown, once again, too, he gave him some good minutes. And he was taking Porter's spot in that closing lineup, too. There were a lot of times where he was closing out the game instead of Michael Porter. The guy's getting paid a max contract, $40 million a year, so... I think that the rest of the guys definitely failed to show up, but kudos to Minnesota. I give them tons of credit. They're a great team, and I think they have a good shot to potentially go into the finals and maybe even win. You never know.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you guys said. The only point I want to touch on is Jamal Murray, because it seems like his health is really going to hurt this team.
Yeah.
It's another year where he's not 100% and they can't get it done.
Yeah. I mean,
Because if he was
I
healthy,
feel like
I
nobody's
feel like they would've won.
100% though. I feel like last year to me for Jamal is just a fluke. He's a great player and he also had a great bubble run. But to me, he's kind of like a fluky player where he'll have like a hot streak, but he's not an incredible player. He can be at times, but his inconsistency, it's like Jimmy Butler, like guys like that where like sometimes he'll have these historic playoff runs where everyone's like, "Oh my god, is he Michael Jordan's son?" No, he isn't, because in the regular season he's averaging 19 points because he doesn't care. And then he tries to care and then those guys get hurt. And that's what happens. If you're going to, if you think you can go the whole regular season lollygagging and, Jamal Murray averaged, 17 points a game in the regular
Something
season?
like that, yeah.
He was not good. He wasn't all-star caliber, wasn't even close.
He also missed about 30 games.
He
I
missed
think.
a ton of games, and then he comes into the playoffs, and they're expecting him to be a 25-point-a-game scorer. That is not going to happen for him.
What's the problem, though, is if he keeps getting hurt, he's never going to be able to get into that groove, seemingly.
Yeah, I mean, the load management it's obvious. Like, none of the guys in the 90s and 80s, like, they would have injuries, but how many of them would get hurt at crucial times in the playoffs?
Not many.
Well, they did, but not
there
enough
were
to keep him
some,
out.
but not like now. Not where it's like. Also, they would play through some things that today it's advised not to, which is completely fair. Like you shouldn't play hurt, but there's definitely some connection between these guys resting for half the regular season and then trying to ramp it up. You can't just ramp it up from zero.
I mean, the blame also falls on like the management. Like a lot of times
Yes.
you'll hear like the management says like, "Oh, sit out." Like the medical team will tell them like to sit out.
It's not
Like,
on
they
the
don't
fault of
play.
the players all
Like
the
some
time.
players want to be out there, and like it's simply like the team doesn't want to have the risk of getting them hurt. Like you saw with Victor Wembanyama this year.
Yes.
Like the Spurs were kind of like hesitant of like playing him like heavy minutes like every single game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he ended up hitting like the 65 mark, but he wasn't playing like max minutes for a guy who's like, the best player on the team.
yeah.
So it's not all like blame the players. I mean, some guys it is, but like not for everyone. So
Yeah. Now let's do a little just what this does for Jokic and then what this does for Ant. So for Jokic, he just won an MVP and then comes out he averaged 29, 13 and 9, which is insane. He was one of the best players in the playoffs this year, but lost in the second round. And a lot of guys, when they're losing the second round after winning MVPs, it's not, it's kind of frowned upon. So, do you guys think this does anything? To me, this signifies to me that instead of Jokic's arc being like the LeBron or like Larry Bird like arc where you're winning like a bunch in a short amount of time, to me, I think Jokic is more on like a Giannis level. Like I think like the Nuggets at this point have almost mirrored the Bucks run, where they played a bunch of all right teams, which you earned with the number one seed, and then the next year your second best player is injured and you're a second round exit, and the Bucks have never gotten back. So at this point there's not really much promise that the Nuggets will be back. They'll always be a good team, as are the Bucks. But at the end of the day, it's like, how long can you outlast these up-and-coming teams? You know?
Well, I think as long as you have the best player in the league and a guy who's like always out there, I think you have a shot. Like one thing with the Bucks that's a little bit different is like Giannis was missing like key minutes. Like he didn't play in this playoffs.
Yeah.
Like Jokic, like you don't really see him ever sitting out or getting hurt. And the style of play he has isn't really like he doesn't jump, doesn't really do anything that's like warrant like that'll warrant like an injury. So if he's out there and like how the NBA is, like having the best players is like how you'll win.
Yes.
So having the best player in the league out there all the time, you'll always be in the mix.
Yeah.
And that's something that the Bucks have lacked from like their best player and even like their second and third guys.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I just think that and I don't think anyone's going to take his like crown. There's been a lot of like times in recent championships where like the guy who wins is like crowned the best player in the world for a little while.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's I mean, at this point, all the guys left in the playoffs are not better than Jokic. unless maybe Luka wins. He's the only one who I think if he won, like maybe people might say. But other than that, I can't see anybody really taking his title as the best player in the world.
And I think Luke, yeah, definitely Luka, I think. And there's some people who, like, I don't agree, but there's some people who already think he's kind of the best player in the league. But
Yikes.
I mean, I've seen it, like, around. I mean, I'm not saying that's what I agree with, but it's an opinion.
Yeah, Luka's really good. And if he wins it, I mean, my gripe with Luke has always been he hasn't gotten over. But what do you guys think? Any impact on Jokic's legacy, standing in the league, perception around the Nuggets going forward?
I think it makes him not the undisputed best player in the league. Because I think that's how he was moving. He was sort of becoming the LeBron of this era where you trust him, you think he's going to make the finals, you just have faith that he's going to come through. I mean, frankly, he wasn't great in the fourth quarter. He seemed to run out of gas. He seemed like he couldn't post. And also the movement around the ball wasn't great. I felt like the Nuggets just were kind of watching him and Murray try to hit shots. And they scored a little bit, but obviously not enough. And, I mean, to let Rudy Gobert and, excuse me, Karl Anthony Towns take over the Game 7 and Naz Reid, it's disheartening if you're talking about the Nuggets, where those are the guys who beat you. Rudy Gobert, who historically gets played off the floor, has a great game against Nikola Jokic, frankly.
Yep.
They're both centers. And
after all the discourse.
Yeah, after all the discourse. And then Jaden McDaniels played great. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's just a disheartening loss for the Nuggets, and Jokic didn't have that crazy elite performance. He was great. He played very well, but it wasn't, he's not blameless, I guess we could say.
I agree.
So I think short term it'll hurt him. Long term, their roster's not great. I think they'll rebuild. They just need a few more pieces. I mean, really, they need a couple more guys who can spark their offense a little bit. They don't have much of a team.
No.
Michael Porter Jr. is getting massive money to be sometimes very good.
Yeah.
Aaron Gordon's fantastic, many games. But yeah, Peyton Watson, DeAndre Jordan, Christian Brown, that's not good enough.
I love your point about Jokic not really showing up in the fourth quarter when that's the whole narrative of why he's the best player in the world is, oh, you can trust this guy down the stretch. What about you, Raul? What do you think?
I was just going to say that I think that he gave you all he needed to. He gave you 43, 10, 0 turnovers in, Game 5 to go 3-2 up.
Masterclass.
The team took Game 6 off. And I mean, that's the thing. No one's going to remember that Game 5, where simply that was one of the most perfect games I've ever seen someone play. Game 7, I mean, if you go into that game thinking he's going to get you almost a 30, 20, 10, if he almost gives you 30, 20, and 10, you take that as a Nuggets fan. Once again, I just think it's the fact that Aaron Gordon's getting paid $25 million a year. Michael Porter Jr. is getting $35, $40 million a year. You got to combine for more than 12 points. Like, Jamal Murray and Jokic gave you everything they needed to.
I don't know.
It's just...
I actually disagree with you on, like, the Jokic giving you all he needed to. I don't think even though, like, the stats will say, I mean, he had 34, 19, and 7, which on paper looks absurd. He went 2 for 10 from 3. Why are you shooting 10 threes? You're not a good three-point shooter.
Because they got 3 7-footers in the lane. You got to get someone
You're the best
else
player
to
in the
give you
NBA.
something. And he gave you 34, 19, and 7.
On inefficient shooting as a center.
He shot almost 50% from the field. And on top of it, you have... I don't think he deserves it 4 times, but he at least deserves it a couple. Rudy Gobert, who's 7 feet in the lane, and then you've got Cat, who's a 7-footer to help off of him. And then you can just bring Naz Reid off the bench, who's also making $20 million a year, who's almost 7 feet tall. And then on top of it, you have Jaden McDaniels, too, who can switch on to him. I mean, you just have all of these guys, and, if you make your shots in the corner, like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was a no-show. Michael Porter Jr., a no-show. Aaron Gordon, a no-show. Aaron Gordon gave you a good game. Michael Porter Jr. gave you a zilch, and this is what happened in the finals last year, where he went AWOL and shot, I think it was 10% from 3-point in the finals, and they still won the game, and they still won the series. At some point, if you're making,
team.
Well, that was the team that showed up, quite
You're right.
frankly, and that's who ran through the entire Eastern Conference, and Giannis, who apparently is supposed to be the guy who is supposed to be challenging Jokic, they ran through that team in 5 games. But what I'm saying is that if you're making $40 million a year, you have to show up and give you more than 4 points, or 5 points in a Game 7. I'm sorry, that just, to me, that's where a lot of the blame lies.
You don't think any blame lies on Jokic
I said some of the blame lies.
but I'm talking about Game 6 now.
Okay.
I feel like, to me, how are you up 3-2? You've won 3 games in a row, and you let go of the rope in that scenario. And the other part of this that bothers me about Jokic is these guys who are on Ant's team. Everyone's been calling them silly forever. They have Jaden McDaniels, who's punching walls last year, breaking his hand. Karl Anthony Towns, who's known as one of the most overrated guys in the league. Crybaby. Soft. Rudy Gobert, who's known as this guy who, he should not have 4 depoys. Oh, he's not this, he's not that. But then when it comes to playing Jokic, everyone's like, he had to play this stacked team. And then they have a 22-year-old as their best player, who's great, but really, I don't know, the narrative just seemed to switch in Jokic's defense from my perception. That now, he played this great team. Really? Why? Karl Anthony Towns, I thought, was not great. Rudy Gobert, I thought, was overrated. What happened to that?
I'll let Betsos guys want to interject real quick. It's because you do need some help. And not that he had no help. The Timberwolves' help ended up being a lot better than the help on his own team. And he mostly played his role. He had, 2, I guess, bad games. Game 6, they didn't really care. And then Game 2, I think, Jokic was pretty bad. This also goes back to stuff where we obviously have talked about LeBron and all that. You do need help to get to the end of the run. You can't. Most guys can't do everything on their own.
You're right.
And the T-Wolves, we're right. The narratives about all their players is that they all have their own weird, quirky problems, but they were just the better team in almost every position. Their guys played better when it mattered. They played hard in the Game 7, and Jokic didn't have any help.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray.
I mean, they did.
In the first half.
Yeah. I mean, but the same logic can be applied to a guy like Giannis, where, he shows up every year in the playoffs.
No, he doesn't. He hasn't shown up the past 2 years. He's been hurt. He's the guy that doesn't show up.
Okay, this year he was hurt, but that's not showing up. Last year he averaged over 30 points a game.
And lost in 5 games to the 8th seed.
Well, he also missed 2 of them.
Okay, so he didn't show up and he wasn't healthy.
That's not showing up. Being hurt is not showing up.
And some of his other guys didn't show up.
It is not showing up.
Means
you
it matters.
can't show up to the game. If you're not hurt, you can't show up and play. And he wasn't out there. Jokic is out there playing every time. It's the fact that Jokic is putting up the numbers and doesn't get hurt and has played every single series. But Giannis gets hurt or they just collapse versus inferior teams.
So it's like LeBron's fault that he's not in the finals in 2021 because he's hurt?
He wasn't hurt. Anthony Davis was hurt. Anthony Davis was the one that missed that series.
But
Anthony Davis missed the whole series.
Yeah, that's a ding on them, that they weren't healthy. Because if they were, they probably wouldn't.
So you think it's a ding, not an excuse, to be hurt?
I mean, yeah, I would say so. If you get hurt and you can't
durability
play,
matters.
Yeah. That's why Anthony Davis gets called weak for not being able to play games, but now he finally went out there and played, 70-something games this year, and then the Lakers still didn't. And the Lakers still got knocked out in the first round.
I guess that's fair. To me, getting hurt doesn't necessarily mean unless it's. I will agree with you. Giannis is starting to get a little track record, but before this, before the last 2 seasons, he was pretty durable. So we'll see what happens next year. After next year, it might start to become a pattern.
Well, either way, too. So, would you agree that Jimmy Butler outplayed Giannis last year in that round?
Yes.
So then who outplayed Jokic this year? Did a player in the Timberwolves outplay Nikola Jokic?
I would argue Ant did.
With 16 points in Game 7, going 4 of 20?
In Game 7, he didn't. In the
loss, he played well. He played well in the loss. He didn't even play that well in the game.
Game 6?
Game 6, he had 24.
Yeah, but
Jaden McDaniels gave you 20.
But it was the momentum.
Yeah, but Jaden McDaniels gave you 20. Cat was the leading scorer. Gobert gave you 15, 20 points. It's the sum of the parts. Anthony Edwards did not outplay Nikola Jokic. There's absolutely no way that's true. If you look at the stats, you just read the stats off. 29, 13, and 9, that's almost a 30-point triple-double. He did not get outplayed.
In Game 7, he didn't.
That team has tons of guys. Well, it was his averages for the whole series. I'd be curious to see Ant's averages for the whole series.
I'll check.
Alrighty.
So we got playoff.
Well, he looks it up, so do you have anything else to add about this series?
Well, I mean, I kind of agree with Raul in a sense. Not entirely, but I agree with Jokic. I'm not gonna kill him. He showed up. He played well. He didn't lay an egg. He wasn't hurt. The other guys like didn't come through. But I mean, at the end of the day, like
He lost.
he was still
Of course, it's still a
lost,
knock,
and
but
like
it's not like
and like when you look back, like a lot of times the little nuances get forgotten. Like, oh, this guy was played bad. It's
or Jamal Murray had a calf strain, right? No one's gonna remember that.
It'll be
20
like,
years from now,
did you
right?
win or lose?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's what they look at. So
That's true.
no matter what you can say, like he lost.
Exactly.
So-
Yeah. I agree.
And I think also when you're the best player, like I think you're always expected to do just a little bit more to try to like help yourself win, at least to keep that title. Like
Yeah. So they average essentially the same amount of points. Ant averaged 0.2 more, and then obviously Jokic has him on the rebounds, and the assists are pretty close.
Who was Ant's matchup? Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
And who was
Probably.
Jokic's
Well,
matchup?
his defensive matchup?
Who was guarding Anthony Edwards?
Probably KCP.
So Contavious Caldwell-Pope was guarding Anthony Edwards.
Yes.
And the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, Karl Anthony Towns and Naz Reid, were all guarding Nikola Jokic. So the 6th man of the year, the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, and Karl Anthony Towns, who's making $44 million a year. That's who's guarding Nikola Jokic, but Anthony Edwards gets a matchup with KCP, who's making $10 million a year.
Who was playing defense? I saw Nikola Jokic in games 1 and 2 let people fly by him for layups, while Anthony Edwards was locking up
If I'm
the
not
second
mis-
best player on the
If
Nuggets.
I'm not mistaken as well, Nikola Jokic has the most steals in the NBA playoffs this year.
Is that true?
It is. Look it up. I think it's
I will.
it's something. He might have. It's close.
But steals don't mean you're a good defender.
Okay.
For a guy like Jokic who just is long, like he'll just get them. Who?
Jokic isn't a bad defender. Like he's better than people give him credit for.
Watching the games,
But I mean,
he
he's not like a
literally
elite defender.
stepped out of the way of people driving to the lane.
I mean, I'm not calling him like a,
doesn't
like a
wanna draw
defensive
fouls.
player.
But that's the other thing. At the point two, you have to make a business decision because if he gets into foul trouble, you're done. Whereas the Wolves, Cat can get get 3 fouls and you can still have 2 7-footers on the floor. If Nikola Jokic gets into foul trouble, the game is over. Because what happens whenever he comes out, the Nuggets are awful.
That against the Lakers, they put in DeAndre Jordan.
That's what
You
I'm saying.
Oh, jeez.
You're gonna
Nikola
put-
Jokic is 8.
Okay. It's pretty solid.
Hold on. This is completely out of order. I can already see, this is in list of points, but I can already see LeBron has 2.4 and Jokic has 1.4, so.
No, but all right, I meant total steals, but whatever. I didn't mean steals per game. I meant total steals. Obviously, LeBron's not going to have more because he played 5 games. But.
Yeah. But, all right, well, I guess, I don't know. To me, like, you could say, like, he's making a business decision, but, like, I don't know. I guess that's kind of an interesting take
It's
to
a
me.
different debate on strategy for another day.
Yeah,
I guess, yeah.
yeah. Alrighty, let's move on. Do you guys want to discuss Knicks Pacers for a second?
For 1 second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can discuss it for a second.
All right, so Knicks Pacers. The Pacers had the highest field goal percentage ever in a Game 7 in NBA history, which is insane. They shot 67% from the field as a team. And Tyrese Halliburton came out of the gate, shot like 4 threes in the first quarter, and made them all. The Knicks started OG Anunoby, which was an awful decision. The Knicks are just an infirmary at this point. They started OG Anunoby, and within 2 minutes you can see he's hobbling, and they have to take him out before the guy tears his hamstring off the bone. And then Jalen Brunson slaps Tyrese Halliburton's knee and breaks his hand. So didn't really amount to much of a Game 7 once the Pacers came out to that insane. They were shooting about 80% in the first half. So yeah, any other points on that series? It was I feel like there's not much else to take away other than the Knicks were just hurt the entire time and it kept getting worse for them. The Pacers started off down 0-2 and they just ended up, they kept pushing and they were the healthier team. I feel like that's kind of the main takeaway.
Yeah, I think injuries kind of robbed, a great, Eastern Conference Finals.
Yes.
I think, obviously Boston and New York, it's always, a classic matchup. Probably
Good media finals.
Probably 2 of the best fan bases, maybe in the league, you could argue, in terms of, how passionate they are and,
Yes.
attendance and all that. So it would have been a great series, and I think, probably a better matchup. The Knicks healthier, I think, and pretty, much better than the Pacers.
Yeah.
And even, the Pacers could really, it still won 7 games, even against, a hobbled Knicks team. So I think, we kind of got robbed of a good series, but, the healthier team wins in the NBA, as we've seen the last few years.
Any closing points on that series? I know you guys weren't huge fans of it, and
I didn't watch a dribble of this series personally, and I mean it's not good for the Knicks, unfortunately. If they had any of their guys, I mean they could have made it a game, or they could have made it a series in the conference finals. I think they could have actually played the Celtics if they had Randall, Mitchell Robinson. I mean even Bogdanovich got injured for
Hart got an injury.
I mean, it's just
OG was hurt.
Hart got an abdominal strain. Brunson broke his hand. I mean, did they have any guys standing at the end of this?
they had Alex Burks lighting it up in Game 7.
I mean, like Dante DiVincenzo gave you, didn't he? I looked at the, didn't he give
39.
you 40? I
He had
mean,
a good
like,
playoffs.
And Alec Burks
He had a great
I think
playoffs.
Alec Burks had 26.
oh my.
He was on fire.
This is insane. It's just like,
If you guys had watched the game, you would have seen. It was. I will say, Alex
would
Burks.
never.
Alex Burks is about. He's about to get
He had,
overpaid.
McBride still out there, and then
Yeah,
Brunson up until he got hurt, and even
Yeah.
him, like he was hobbled a little.
did
bit.
they have 5 players by the end?
I think
Did they have
Hardenstein
5
too was still
players?
out there.
Thibodeau tying up his
Yeah, did
sneakers.
Thibodeau have to get in?
He might have.
I mean,
Old school center.
It's a good thing it's over. It would have been better for the league if the Knicks were in the conference finals.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Being
I think
honest.
I think it's better that a healthy team's in the conference finals.
Aren't
don't
they
know.
missing a player too? Isn't there like a key
No.
player that they're missing? I thought someone
No.
got injured in the regular season maybe.
The problem is just no one wants to watch the Pacers.
No, you're right. But I also think it just wouldn't have been an entertaining. At least I think the Pacers might give a little fight. The
healthy
Knicks
Knicks.
would have been yes, healthy Knicks would. I picked that as my conference finals matchup for the
I think
East.
we all did.
We all did.
yeah.
I picked
I mean,
them.
that would have just been electric. That atmosphere would be crazy because you'd have
Still
the
Celtics in 5, but it would have been cool.
yeah, probably still Celtics in 5. Yeah. Fully healthy if we had Porzingis, but so if we're just abiding injuries, then. But yeah, that would have been an awesome matchup. Celtics fans in the Garden, in the New York Garden, Knicks fans in TD Garden. That would have been insane. But unfortunately, we were robbed of that from injuries and Tom Thibodeau playing his guys 48 minutes a game.
The only positive about this, real quick, before we move on, there is now a chance of a Pacers-Wolves finals. And that would be hilarious if it happened.
Oh my gosh.
The Midwest would go crazy.
There's a chance.
It would.
The
That is-
12,000 NBA fans out there would
Oh my
love
gosh.
The hay bales would be getting rolled. All right.
12,000 NBA fans out there.
It's a high estimate.
it. Yeah. Around it up.
That's generous.
The amount of people
Oh,
who play
yeah.
is probably even lower.
Yeah.
Take out Chicago, probably none.
All right, let's hit the conference finals. So let's stick with the Pacers and Celtics. This one should be quick. So I actually, I'm a Celtics fan, obviously. So there's actually a little bit of intrigue for me in this series. It is the 2 best offenses of all time, rating-wise, going against each other. Celtics were number 1, Pacers were number 2 this year. And to me, yeah, the Celtics should dominate, but the Pacers play a really interesting style of basketball, and they're pretty much healthy, the entire team. Halliburton's been ramping up. He started the playoffs a little cold, as he was all season after his hot streak. But yeah, my pick is, unfortunately, I'm saying this, I think it's going to be an easy 6. So I think the Pacers will force them to 6 games, actually, because, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Depending on if the Porzingis comes back, but he's probably, even if he comes back game 3, he's not going to play a lot. So, like, we have Al Horford, but is he going to do a great job of Miles Turner popping out for threes? Like, Miles Turner's a good player. The Pacers, even though they are sort of a new team, they're in a small market, they're not really like a fun team to watch. At least in our opinions, I'm sure. I don't know. They do pose not a threat to the Celtics losing, I don't think, but I think they are going to be the Celtics' first real adversity that they have to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, even the playoffs, you'd hope there'd be like some adversity. But
Yeah.
I mean, the Pacers are.
With Porzingis, I don't think there would be any.
I mean,
but,
the Celtics have like. I mean, you've seen like this playoffs, like they'll give up like a game or two.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that Heat team, like really, they probably should have swept them. Like, 'cause they, I mean,
yeah.
they were like a fringe playoff team, just like with everyone out there. Then like you had like Butler out and like a couple
Rozier.
other guys ended up coming out. Yeah, Rozier. So like, even they gave up a game to them. And then like
Yeah.
this last series, I think they gave up I think just one game to the Cavs, and then one of the games could have went either way without Donovan Mitchell. But
Yeah.
so I think like they'll probably give up like one or two at least.
I think
They'll probably
Celtic.
But I don't see them losing.
No, I don't see them. I think they should win in 5. I think 5 would be like reasonable against like this team, but I think it's gonna be 6.
I gotta look into the camera here and say this as a realistic Boston guy. If this is not Celtics in 4, this is a disappointment to the max.
4. Okay.
Jaylen Brown is better than Tyrese Halliburton post injury, and it's not even close. Miles Turner is their second best player, for crying out loud. I mean, Derek White's better than probably Miles Turner as well. I mean, this has got, if we don't win this series in 4, I don't know what to say.
You think this team is worse than the Heat team without Butler?
No, I think they're better, but I think that the fact that we didn't close that team out in 4 is even more of a joke, being that Porzingis was out there.
He was out there for 2 games.
Even still, they didn't have Jimmy Butler, Terry Rozier, Jaime Jaquez Jr. missed, 2 out of the 5 games?
Yeah.
I mean, that is just... My God.
The
Duncan
Celtics
Robinson.
have definitely come waltzing through the playoffs.
Duncan Robinson didn't play here?
No, I think he was out there. He's like the only guy I remember out there.
Okay, and Adebayo, right?
They were
Yeah,
benching
Bam
a
was
lot
still
too.
out there.
If the Celtics play to their potential, I think you're right. I just don't. I don't know. Just based on their history, I just don't see it being 4.
They should sweep if they're the team that we think they are. The team they are on paper is, outside of the Warriors with KD, the most talented team we've maybe ever seen for a single season. The ability in the starting lineup is
I don't know about
insane.
ever, but definitely since the Warriors.
I don't know a team we've seen a better starting 5.
Like
With
Birds,
bench, too.
Birds,
And
like
with bench.
86
Well, that
Celtics.
we've seen.
Oh, in our lifetimes.
In our lifetimes. Other than
I
the
mean, I
Warriors-
didn't watch Shaq and Kobe, but Shaq and Kobe are both better than Tatum and Brown
You know
by
what I
a
mean?
mile.
That we've seen. That we
so
actually
like
watched.
post maybe like 2010.
10 and on, yes.
I don't know, that Heat team in 2013
With Chalmers and UD starting, or Birdman.
and Ray Allen and
I mean,
the
it
top
depends, like,
3 there
depends what you're
is
talking
crazy.
about. Like, if
Still
you're
got
talking about
Horford, Pritchard, and Hauser off the bench, too. I mean, those aren't scrubs.
Like,
Those are
Pritchard's better than
bona fide
Ray Allen was
players.
at the end of his career, I feel like.
I mean, if you're talking about like
at
1
least
through
they're
5,
not
it
equal.
depends. Like Bosch, Wade, and like LeBron are like those 3 are better probably like than the Celtics' big 3. But if you're
probably
going
better
like
than the Celtics'
if you're going
big
like 1
5.
through 5, like it kind of depends. Like the Celtics are more well-rounded,
And they have a
but they
better
don't-
bench.
But like they don't have as good of a player. Like Tatum's nowhere near like that version of LeBron. I mean, he's not even. I mean, some
Right,
don't
he'd-
think he's a
yeah,
top 5 player in the league right now. So
Yeah.
Well, I guess the point is, you can make the argument they're one of the top 2
Yeah,
or 3.
sorry to cut you off.
Either
They're
way,
real.
yeah.
They're a really good team.
So the point is, if they're a true title team that should be winning, they should be making a joke of all these teams, as the Cavs used to in their easy East. They would at least sweep the 60-win fake teams. They need to
like
be
the Pacers.
like the Pacers, no, like the Raptors, like the
The
Hawks.
Raptors and the Hawks, LeBron swept both of them.
Yeah, I know.
And,
with
and
I'm just
and-
playing.
You know, that's a legit team. And the Celtics, to me, don't feel quite... They remind me a bit... They're obviously better than the Wizards, but John Wall's Wizards would always do this. They'd always compete really well in the regular season against the good teams. Like, they would beat the Cavs. They'd beat the Warriors. They'd beat these type of teams. And then they lose to, someone random in the first round. And they would lose against bad teams in the regular season. Like, they don't play up to their true potential.
I don't
Yeah,
think
that's
it
how I
quite
feel
remind
about
me
the
of that.
Celtics.
I think it's more like some of those teams, like those Bulls teams and like Hawks teams. Like they had like 60 wins, but like
D. Rose Butler.
but they didn't like win it. Yeah, like, they had
Joakim
D.
Noah,
Rose.
yeah.
I mean, I know Rose got hurt a couple times, but like some of those teams, like even like Atlanta, like they won like 60 games and were a 1 seed. But that's kind of what like the Celtics have kind of been. I mean, better than that, I think overall. But
yeah,
like,
definitely better.
But still haven't they haven't won. Like it's been like a while since they've won
Yeah.
one.
They
And,
still
like,
look like a champion. That's all I'm saying. That's the way they've been playing.
I guess. I mean, obviously, like the game 2 losses they're not awesome, but
At home.
But do we really think, even if they had swept both series, the narrative wouldn't be any different?
I think it would be.
I don't know
yeah.
if it would. People have been saying that, like, hating on the Celtics the entire season.
And they give
No.
all the more
There
reason to
was
hate.
a clip on NBA radio before the playoffs started about how many games should they lose before they get to the finals, and the debate was should they lose 1 or 2 games. They've already
Oh,
lost
through the
2.
playoffs?
Throughout the whole playoffs. It's like they've already lost 2
Well,
against injured teams.
If they sweep the Pacers, then they've done that.
And I think
They better. They
I
should.
think like part of this too is kind of like an indictment on like their best player. Like some of those, like he brought up like LeBron. Like when you have like those like true guys, like you know are going to come through. Like you don't really like expect them to drop some. So I think the fact that people like already know, oh, like they'll drop one or two to like Indiana, like they'll drop one to Miami. That you can maybe put that as an indictment on Tatum. I know.
I mean, I love Tatum, but he's no LeBron. So I don't know if I'm not comparing.
I'm not
him to
saying
LeBron.
he's like as good, but I'm saying like if you want to kind of be in that echelon of players, like
Yeah, but he's not going to be in. He's not. Tatum is not going to be in the GOAT conversation.
I'm saying even like as like a top 5 player in the league. Like
I mean, he's got the best player.
Like guys like Luka, you see like them, like guys like
so far.
Luka. Like I know that's kind of like debate. I know you prefer Tatum, but like you see Luka coming through all the time.
I mean, if you put Luka above Tatum, to me, it's not a big deal. To me, it's just like the 4 guys, the main 4. You got like Jokic, Embiid, Giannis. If you put Luka above Tatum, like it's whatever.
And
but
Shea.
to me, I can't. I can't get there with Shea.
We'll talk about Shea.
You got to take on Shea.
We'll talk about Shea.
We'll leave that. We'll leave that. He's
we can save that debate for another segment.
Shea's currently on a flight home, so we're not going to talk about him today.
Well, we are. We have to talk about the Mavericks and the Thunder.
No, we don't. Are we going to talk about those? I thought we already moved on to the conference finals.
Oh yeah. What am I saying? Yeah.
Yeah. So now, Wolves Mavs. That is probably going to be a more entertaining series and a little more of a coin toss.
You think it'll be a little more entertaining?
I think it might be a little bit.
I mean, I don't know. I personally, I thought the series out east were more entertaining than even the Wolves Nuggets series. That series was not entertaining.
The East had some good matchups.
They were good matchups. Well, they were like
a little bit underrated, and it's maybe.
I know they're not awesome teams by any measure, and like the Nuggets and Wolves probably would have kicked the brakes off of most of those teams, but the games were close, and that is like to me what makes like a better game. But I personally think that the Mavs have a favorable matchup in this series. The Timberwolves were built by Tim Connolly to beat the Nuggets, and so he got all these bigs, and he just structured it around, and then he made a bet on Anthony Edwards taking that next step, which he has. Luka's been in the conference finals before. He's played a lot more playoff games. He's been there in game 7s, and to me, I think the small guards for the Mavs are going to be able to pick apart the size on the Wolves. You can't play Gobert and Cat together, in my opinion. It's going to be hard, especially playing Nas and Cat maybe, but it's going to be hard to have Rudy and another big out there having to run out to the Mavs, who are all good shooters except for Lively and Gafford, who usually don't play together. So my pick is Mavs in 6.
What do you got, Arch?
My gut tells me the Mavericks are going to win the series. Strictly because, frankly, I do trust Luka. And Kyrie hasn't been awesome in this playoff run, but he's been good. I trust Kyrie as well to just play well.
Yeah.
I can't say I trust guys like Rudy Gobert to be consistently effective like they were against Denver. Because, like you said, Tim Connolly built this team to play the Nuggets. And the Nuggets are not the Mavericks. They're very different teams.
Right.
One key thing that I think the Mavericks did well against the Thunder was utilize their athleticism down low, P.J. Washington and Gafford and Lively. And that allowed them to get a lot of rebounds and allowed them to score inside. Against the Wolves, I don't think they're going to be able to do that. And Luka's not going to be as efficient, I feel like, against the T-Wolves, because he tends to struggle a little against the T-Wolves. Mm-hmm. He's not awful against anybody, and no one can stop him. But if you're to pick a team to guard Luka, you'd probably pick the T-Wolves. If you want to pick a team that can match up athletically and size-wise
the Celtics.
With Gafford and Lively, or the Celtics, you'd probably pick the T-Wolves. So even though my heart tells me to pick the Mavericks, I will pick the T-Wolves in 6.
Oh, heart versus brain debate. Bro?
I'm very torn on this as well. Like I was torn picking between Denver and Minnesota, who I went with Denver in 7. Wrong pick. Got it off by a game, unfortunately.
Couple points.
Yeah, a couple cost me dearly in the bracket competition.
A couple Rudy Gobert fadeaways cost you.
It cost me $20. Just put it that way, going straight into Hutch's pocket. But but what I will say here is that I just have such a tough time picking this. I mean, Luka. Here's the thing: like, you can't. I have a tough time picking against him, being that. I mean, earlier this season when they were with the Mavericks in like 8th or ninth, no one was looking at them and thinking there's a chance that they could go to the NBA Finals. They were doing awful. They didn't even make the playoffs last year. I mean, for crying out loud. Then all of a sudden, I mean, they make these trades for P.J. Washington and Gafford that everyone thought were awful at the time. They thought, oh, the Mavericks threw away all their assets. These are bad trades. They're trying to win They're trying to win now too much with Luka. Like, I don't know if this whole Kyrie Luka thing's gonna work. I mean, Kyrie Irving, Luka has brought Kyrie back. I mean, Kyrie, once he left LeBron, he went to Boston, couldn't do anything. Goes and plays with his buddy Durant in Brooklyn. They couldn't do anything. And then, he leaves and goes to Dallas. And all of a sudden, Luka Doncic just turned Kyrie Irving back into the guy that we know Kyrie Irving as. He's focusing on basketball. Yep. He's doing the right things. And the thing is, this is the Kyrie Irving, to me, that I look back at and think LeBron won a championship with. This is the Kyrie that showed up, that stepped up, that was hitting big shots, that was disciplined on defense. So I want to pick the Mavs really badly, but after what I just watched the Wolves do, it's like, I mean, they have too many guys. I mean, Mike Conley's name hasn't even been uttered once here, and he's just like a great player that puts up 10 points a game for them and a great role player. And I don't know, the thing that makes me want to pick the Mavs is that Luka, I know, has been laboring with the knee, but they've had 4 days off before the start of the series, so I don't know how, maybe he's going to look a lot fresher. I'm going to actually I think I'm going to go Mavs in 7 on the road in Minnesota. The Nuggets did win 2 games on the road in Minnesota. I think that the Mavs can pull off a Game 7 there. Luka against the Clippers in the only Game 7 he's ever played. I know they lost, but he put up 46 points.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Mavericks in 7.
All right. I'm going to go hit this notification off. I hope it's a battery one, not a storage one.
Mike's still got to make his...
I know. We're not done. All right, it's just a battery one. It's still recording, so it's fine. I already put a note that'll cut this out. Mike, your thoughts on Mavs Wolves?
So I think like he said, it's like a tough series to pick.
Yeah. Like
2 great teams, like 2 young stars like Edwards and Luka. Mm-hmm. I know I didn't pick like the Mavs like going that far, but that wasn't so much because like that was like the hardest series for me to pick was that first round one. Like I had in our little bracket competition, like I had filled out like the entire portion of the bracket.
Clips and 6 NBA champs.
Except for like that portion, like I had left, I'd filled everything else in, and then I left because that was like so hard for me to pick.
Yeah.
And then I ended up going like with the Clippers, and like it didn't work out. But like
yeah.
But I did. That's not like I didn't believe in this Mavs team. Like they have Luka, who's a top three player, you could say.
Yeah.
Kyrie's a great number 2 player. I mean the Wolves too, like you said, like they have Gobert, Towns, Edwards. So I'm gonna edge the Mavs in 7 for the series, just because like I feel like Luka is the best player in the series, and I feel like he can get it done. And also, I mean, from like a viewership standpoint, like I think the NBA would much rather have Luka in the final.
I agree.
Bigger market team.
I'd rather watch Luka in the finals.
Bigger player, like international audience. All of Europe, they follow him. He's like a legend over there. Where like some of these guys, I mean, Gobert is from Europe, but like he doesn't have that kind of following. Yeah. So I think that'd be huge for the league to have like a guy like that, young, exciting star. I mean, like Jokic is European, but like he doesn't have that same draw as like Doncic has.
You're right.
So I think like a Celtics Mavs finals would be like a great watch, and that's probably the one that the league wants.
Yeah, I'm gonna transition with that point. We can kind of talk a little bit about just like looking ahead to the finals, but like you just said, for the league, how much would it help the NBA if we could get an American best player to knock off a European best player? Because the Europeans have pretty much taken over the NBA at this point, and the American view of all these up-and-coming players is we're losing the LeBrons, the KDs, the Stephs, the Kawhis, all these guys who are great players in their primes and are kind of not really as relevant later in the playoffs at this point. So if a guy like Tatum could knock off a team with a European guy as their superstar, I think that would also speak volumes. But on that point, who do you guys think out of the remaining 4, like we'll call them superstars, even though we don't know about if Halliburton's really on that level. I don't think he is. All right, so the 4 remaining star/superstars. So between Halliburton, Tatum, Luka, and Ant, who do we think has the most to gain from winning? So you can. If you want, you can X out Halliburton from the whole
That's what I'm
conversation.
saying. I want to go first here.
Because obviously, he would have the most to gain.
There you go. If he beats the Celtics and then whoever comes out of Minnesota
He's the best player in the
versus
league.
He might be an MVP candidate
I don't
next
even.
year. Yeah.
He might be an MVP candidate. He might have to be the best player in the league at
He
that
might pass
point.
Jokic. Yeah,
I don't
you're
even know
right.
what to say.
Yeah.
But I think that the player that has the most to gain is definitely Luka for sure. I think that Anthony Edwards' team is just crazy. I mean, like you saw him in a Game 7, he only has to score 16 points to win. Luka's team, I just don't think is all that great. I mean, like in Maxi Kleber too. I know it's Maxi Kleber. He's just a guy, right? He's just a role player.
Well, he's hurt.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's hurt.
Oh.
But I know he's another guy that's just out of Luka's. He doesn't even have him, right? But
He's third string center.
what I'm saying is, I mean, like Josh Green, Derek Jones Jr. PJ Washington, good player. He was putting up empty numbers in Charlotte, and he comes over. Gafford, empty numbers in Washington. Bring him over.
These guys have been playing super well for him, though.
Yeah, no, they have. You're right. They've been playing.
Because
very
he
well.
hasn't played to his potential either in these playoffs.
He hasn't played as well as he has. He did sprain his knee in the third game in the playoffs. But what I will say is he did play well in that Game 7. He played well in the Game 5 as well when they went up versus the Thunder as well.
Yeah.
But what I will say, though, is that, I mean, they took these guys that were like nobodies. I mean, Gafford and Washington are playing for Charlotte and Washington. You bring them in, and all of a sudden they're contributing to a Western Conference Finals run, potentially an NBA Finals run. I mean, Luka's getting these guys involved. I think in that Game 6, I saw Luka throw like 8 lobs to. It was either Gafford and Lively. I mean, like Lively's a rookie, Gafford's a former Washington Wizard, and Washington's a former Hornet, and then Kyrie Irving once again. Like we were talking about him being just an absolute cancer in the locker room, and Luka seemingly brought him back to loving basketball. And like to me, this would be insanely impressive with Tim Hardaway Jr. not even playing well either. If they pull this off and run through, I mean, I know the Clippers were injured, they didn't have Kawhi, but I mean, the rest of the team is still decent at least. If they beat that, they beat the 1 seed.
They've been on a good
semis.
run. There's no disrespecting the OKC Thunder either. They beat a 1 seed.
And then if they beat,
Handedly.
and then if they beat the Wolves in the conference in the conference finals, then go on to beat a 64-win team in the finals, I mean, that would be incredible.
That would be ridiculous. I actually like your take a lot. I think I'd agree with Luka. He hasn't really played to his potential, but one thing I will say is I've always been low on Luka. I thought he was just a losing style player, the heliocentric style. With this roster, it fits so well around him that he's making all these guys better because they've built this roster to be exactly what Luka needs. He has Kyrie as an escape, as a release valve in case he's not hot, and he's just another like superstar level player. You've got PJ Washington, who's just a solid power forward, plays his role, hits his threes, and he's just another scorer. And then the rest of the guys, lob threats, 3-point shooters, perfectly constructed roster for a guy like Luka, where he's just a heliocentric player. And a lot of these guys are also incredible defenders. Lively, awesome rim protector. Derek Jones Jr. is probably their best defender.
Gafford's great at defense.
Gafford's a great defender. I mean, they lost Kleba, but he was more of an offensive player. But like, PJ Washington's picking up his end of the bargain.
Great defender.
And Luka and Kyrie have really put their butts on the line throughout the playoffs so far defensively. I knocked Jokic for the defense, and I've always thought Luka was similar. But I've been watching, and Luka has really, really been putting in the effort defensively. And his post-game press conferences, talking well about the team. If they beat the Timberwolves, who right now are the hottest team in the NBA and most people's picks to win the finals, and then they beat the 64-win Celtics, you can't get much better than that. Especially not having Kyrie's a great player, but like not like a true like second superstar.
Technically not even an all-star.
Technically. But I mean he was the second best player on a shallow championship team. So Kyrie's had his moments, and he has been like a number one MVP candidate before, but he's taken a back seat. He still puts up about 27 a game. He's a really good player, but Luka is the guy, and it's not close.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to me, Luka has a ton to gain here.
Like they all have like a ton to gain. Obviously, like Edwards but I think Jason Tatum has the most to gain.
Okay.
Just because Luka, even if he loses, like he's still kind of considered like a top 3 guy.
Yeah.
Where I feel like Tatum kind of like, especially with how good of a team he has, I feel like he kind of needs to win something.
Yeah.
Like I think if he doesn't win this year, like I think like the doubters and like all like are really gonna kind of get on him, and like there's gonna be a lot of like pressure on him. I think if they don't win this year.
Yeah.
Because he's been around a little while now. Like he's not like a rookie anymore. He's like in his 6th or 7th year at least at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like it kind of comes to a point where like you need to, especially with like the team they have, like they're expecting to win. Like they built this team to win. You have Jaylen Brown, who's like an all-star player, Porzingis, who's like an all-star talent player, White, who's like a great, he's really like a great two-way player. Even like Drew Holiday, who's like isn't as good as he was, but like still solid.
Yep.
So like I feel like he has like the most to gain in like in that terms, because even like Edwards, he's kind of young. He's only like 22 compared to like Luka. And I mean, I know it's not that far, but
Yeah.
people aren't gonna like really. It's not like
Yeah,
the end all
Luka's
be all.
established.
It's not the end all be all if Edwards doesn't win this year.
Yeah.
Where I feel like, so if I had to rank it in order, I'd do like Tatum 1, then Luka.
Okay. So I think you kind of segued a little into. I also have on here who has the most to lose. So I would definitely.
Same thing, yeah.
So you think it's the same? You think Tatum has both?
Yeah, most to lose.
To me, I'd say Luka. Like if Luka won, he has the most to gain. To me, Tatum doesn't have the most to gain because they're a lot. I mean, at this point, because everyone hates the Celtics, everyone's picking the Wolves, but it's kind of like a spiteful pick against the Celtics, where they're like, yeah, but they have Jason Tatum. So, but if he wins, then everyone's just going to be like, oh, he had this easy walk and he had this awesome team. So I don't think Tatum's going to get that much credit for winning the finals as much as Luka would. So, but most to lose, 100% for me is Tatum. I think if he loses, he is going to absolutely get fried because he's been there before. He has the best team remaining, and he's been somewhat disappointing. He's picked it up in the end of the Cavs series, but as everyone knows, he's had a pretty easy walk so far, and he's playing below his standard. He's picked up other parts of the game. He's been above his season average by far in rebounds and assists. The points are down, the efficiency's down. He really needs to pick those up. But to me, if he loses, he's in deep trouble in terms of, one, the Celtics are going to probably have to remodel. Like the only like realistic team that you could lose to and not think it's a total disaster would have been the Nuggets, because they were the defending champs. Everyone left in the playoffs, at least the best players, are all going to be first-time champions. Tatum's the only one of the like 4 superstars who's been to the finals before, and Luka's the only one who's been to the conference finals before, and he's been once. This is his 5th time. The playoff experience, everything. If he loses, he is in deep trouble. And I kind of agree with what you're saying, where Luka's not really going to get as much hate. And Anthony Edwards, he's young. He's had a great run so far. It's new. And Halliburton, nobody expects it. I mean, he's going against the best team in the NBA, so nobody expects anything from him anyway. So, to me, most to gain is Luka, most to lose is Tatum by far.
Yeah, I think the most to gain is Luka, just like you guys said. I mean, a couple quick other points. I think Anthony Edwards and Tatum, even if they won Finals MVP, I don't know if that would put them over the top for most people. Maybe it would move them ahead of Luka, but it wouldn't move them as high up. So I don't know how much to gain they even have. Like,
it might put them above, in some people's eyes, maybe like all time. It might put them above like maybe like an Embiid, but not like if Tatum won, like you could make the argument all time that he'd be better than Embiid if he has a Finals MVP, and Embiid's never been past the second round.
Yeah, there are still people who just currently at least would say Tatum isn't as good as Luka. Even if people might
Even if he won?
Even if he won, people would just think in their head that Luka's probably better.
Yeah, I mean, some people might, yeah.
But Luka has a ton to gain here because he's been to now 2 conference finals in 3 years, and frankly, if he wins Finals MVP, you could start really making the case that he's the best player in the league, and it wouldn't be crazy. And especially against a guy like Giannis, who has had injury issues and things like that. He had a kind of rough series against Boston, against the Heat. He had the great run, but there's no reason not to say Luka's better than even Giannis if he pulls this off.
Oh, if Luka wins the Finals MVP, it'd be a coin toss between him and Jokic for me. I would have so much more respect for Luka. Yeah. That's my whole gripe with him is he's had the one run, but if he actually pulls this off against even the Celtics, that it's not like the Celtics went out early and he's gonna have an easy guy an easy team in the finals. Mm-hmm. Like people might say the Celtics will.
And then
the Nuggets are gone. But.
The other reason that he has a lot to gain is his team just isn't as good as the other teams.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, Derek Jones. I don't want to disrespect anybody. Derek Jones was on the scrap heap for years.
Yes.
I mean, he has not been a good caliber NBA
most
player.
People couldn't tell you what team he
was
played
on the
for in
dunk
the last
contest.
4 years.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I didn't know who Josh Green was before the start of this playoffs.
I mean, he also has
a good young player,
I didn't know.
But he's not great.
He's not very good.
He's fine.
He's not very good.
Tim Hardaway Jr., I don't know what's happened. The guy who wears his jersey now is not Tim Hardaway Jr. He's forgotten how to play basketball.
I completely forgot he was even on the Mavericks,
exactly.
honestly.
He's not playable. And then Daniel Gafford's very good. He was a good player his whole career. And then P.J. Washington, he's good. Point is, it's Kyrie and Luka. Yeah. And then a bunch of guys. And I like all these players. They've all played very well.
Yeah.
But compared to what Ant has at his disposal, Naz Reid coming off the bench and stuff like that, it's not close. So if Luka did this, it would be seen as a pretty crazy run.
Yeah, aside from, obviously, we're discluding the Pacers in all of these talks.
Sorry, Tyrese.
Indiana for the finals, put the house on it.
Yeah, I mean, if Tyrese Halliburton wins, he might be better than Michael Jordan.
Yeah. And as far as to lose, I think no one can lose except Tatum. And I hate to say it, but
I agree. That's a great point. I don't think anyone really is going to be frowned upon except him.
Unless they play just horribly, which probably won't happen with any of these guys.
And even so, who cares?
Yeah.
Oh, you went against the Celtics like you're supposed to lose.
Like Tatum has a lot to lose if he doesn't play well, and no one else has anything to lose.
I mean, and it's fair. Tatum deserves to have the most pressure right now, but it also is like, it's just gotten to a point where like the guy can't win, man. It's just like anything he does, he cannot win. But
I want to say one thing too. Obviously, I said Luka had the most to gain. I definitely agree. Tatum has the most to lose. This, from our perspective, I feel like we actually have knowledgeable opinions. I feel like for the average NBA fan though, like what we're gonna see on ESPN if the Timberwolves win, I feel like even if Luka wins, they're not gonna give him as much credit. If Ant wins, they're really all gonna start trying to glaze him and start saying he's literally the next Michael Jordan. I'm not kidding.
It's true.
They're gonna start saying he's the best. People are going to say he's the best player in the NBA and that he's the face of the NBA.
It's
like
shameful.
Stephen A. Smith will say
what
that.
What if Tatum outplays him in the championship? If it's not just the teams, if Tatum outplayed
this is
him.
what we're talking about.
I don't know, man. I don't even know. I feel like they'd still just be like Anthony Edwards would be clapping at the end of the game, and then that would go viral on TikTok, and then all the kids would see it.
Or
and
he'll
all
have a funny quote in the post game.
And then all of a sudden he'll swear at the press conference, and all of a sudden he's the face of the NBA. I mean, it's just.
I agree. He has his rise to fame has been questionable. I mean, he's awesome. He's a top 10 player, but the Michael Jordan comp is. And I know a lot of people say it's just like the look, but anyway. So I assume you all have the finals. The Celtics probably winning. You would expect the Celtics to win. What do you think, Mike? You have a team.
I'd probably if I had to lean, I'd lean Celtics, but if I have
Dallas
and Boston, but I don't think it's gonna be easy.
Oh no! Both
Dallas
of those teams are gonna be hard. I mean, I think the Celtics.
I think Dallas has the best player in the series.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that'd be fair. But I think the Celtics would handedly take care of the Mavs. The Timberwolves would be worrisome.
I think if you're the Celtics, you're
praying Mavs.
I think the Wolves are a harder matchup.
100%.
Just because the bigs too, especially Porzingis and Horford are not Horford can still defend, but he's older. Yeah. And Porzingis is tall, but not a great defender.
We don't want Porzingis getting killed by Rudy, Cat, and Nas.
Cat can space the floor too. He can shoot threes.
Yes.
Gobert can't, obviously, but he's a great around
I
the
mean,
rim.
he's
and,
still
and he can
strong.
defend.
He's stronger than Porzingis. Like, he struggled against Jokic, who's a super strong guy.
And Reed too off the bench. Like those
Yeah.
three are all
Yeah.
tough. So
Yeah.
Nikhil Alexander-Walker, we haven't even mentioned him.
yeah, Mike Conley
And
too.
Kyle Anderson gets minutes too.
Yeah, slow.
They have a really good team. Yeah. As a Celtics fan, I'm hoping we get to play the Mavericks. And I think that would just be a better matchup. I think
Maybe get better ratings. Actually, no, it might
That's
not.
what I mean.
It might actually not. I'm not gonna lie. Anthony
Well, no,
Edwards.
from-
I feel like for the American
Maybe.
audience, I feel like more people would watch that. But
I mean, Luka's
I would
big
ra-
here too. Like he like I know a ton of people love
lot of
watching.
people
frat
him.
like
guys
it.
love him.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't know what a frat is.
I mean, obviously internationally, I mean, no question. Like everyone in Europe knows him. Like he was like a young star. But I think even here, like he's a big draw. I mean, Dallas obviously is like a way bigger market too. But
Yep.
even like, but I think Luka's a bigger draw.
Yeah.
And like the Dallas as a whole.
Yeah.
It's fair. It's good.
Well, before the camera dies, let's get 2 quick trivia questions in here. So, this is the first season since when where 0 active MVP winners were in the Final Four.
I'm gonna go like 99 maybe.
Just you pick a year and
It's a
whoever
good
and
shot
whoever's
at the lockout
pick
season.
a year and whoever's the closest wins. So he says 99.
I think that you might have actually got that on the dot. Now that I'm thinking about that. Latrell Sprewell's Knicks. Actually, no, Patrick Ewing was still playing. I mean, he wasn't.
2016.
He wasn't an MVP. though.
2016.
Or no, sorry, that was a Steph year, right?
Yeah.
17. What was
Also,
the Westbrook
LeBron,
year? When was the
LeBron won the
Westbrook year, maybe?
championship. He was an active MVP.
The Westbrook year. Was LeBron in it that year?
No, but
Durant was.
it's
They
not the
weren't
guy
for
who
it.
won it. It's the like this year if Harden was in it, he would be an active MVP
Yes, that's
winner.
Oh,
Yes,
I
yeah.
see.
So it's not
it's
the
not- it's
MVP.
none of the
It's
2010s
a
LeBron.
winner of the
Okay.
MVP.
So the entire
Yeah, so
2010s.
Now I see.
It's not in the last 6 years.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
1972.
So 2010, Braun was in there. 2009, Braun was in there. 2008, Kobe won it. 2007, Tim Duncan won it. 06,
This guy's an encyclopedia.
Shaq, obviously.
I said have
Are
time
we
in
just
my
gonna
head.
work our way all the way down?
We might have
Just
to.
pick a year. So Mike said 99.
Oh,
Hutch said,
99.
what'd you say, Hutch?
I have to pick a new one. 78.
Right.
Oh my gosh. We'll go 76.
1955-56.
I win.
Bro wins.
Nice guess.
When you said 72 and then you changed it, I was like, "Ugh." Yeah, it's been that long since there hasn't been an MVP winner in the Final Four. It is kind of insane. Like, not even like a second best player on a team.
George Mikan was slacking that year. He couldn't get it done.
Come on, Mike.
I thought 99 was a decent guess too. I was
Yeah.
like,
That's a great
Who was
guess.
in there in 99?
It's like, I think-
oh, David Robinson.
Yeah, probably.
he
oh
was- he
yeah, I
was in the
forgot
Spurs.
about that.
All right. And then one last trivia question. Who is the current highest paid player remaining in the playoffs?
Gobert.
I was gonna
What do
say
you
that.
think, Raul?
Let me do a little thinking here. You can go first, Dutch, if you want to. Because Jaylen Brown's contract hasn't kicked in yet.
It has not kicked in yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is Gobert.
Let's go Bear.
It's Gobert. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good guess, guys. And he's the only top 15 player, top 15 paid player remaining.
It's because all the guys are young and they haven't gotten their next.
I don't know. We've got. I mean, I'm surprised Cat's not in there. He's not in the top 15.
Well, he already got paid a few years ago. That's the
Yeah, but
thing.
is he on a
making-
worse
making good
contract
money
though?
still,
He's
but-
probably making 40.
Or maybe it's a descending contract. Yeah, I don't have the list, but
He's probably just in the 40s.
pretty crazy. I thought that 0 MVP winners one is crazy. That's insane. But that's going to do it for today. Thank you for watching the 4-Point Play. Check out some of our other videos.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.